Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Calling All Creatures. I'm your host, Lori, and tonight we have a bubble-rific podcast for you, you might say. We are going to be having joy in every pop tonight because we're talking to John Reider, the Bubble Man, and he makes bubbles for pets, along with humans, of course, but for pets for our podcast because, we are a pet-friendly podcast. So anyway, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and say thank you, John, for being on the podcast tonight to talk about your awesome bubbles and bubble making, and I'm glad you were able to be on.
Well, Lori, thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure I love talking about what we do, and it's always wonderful to meet new people in the industry.
Great. So why don't you go ahead and tell us, how did you get into the bubble business? Has this been something that you've always kind of wanted or thought about doing? Did it just kind of fall into your lap and you said, hey, that's a great idea, we're going to do this? How'd you get into doing the bubbles?
Oh, my God. Well, it started back somewhere in the 90s. I was on, that newly invented thing called the internet, right? And I was out just searching one night, and I found a guy who had advertised these bubbles that he claimed glowed under blacklight, okay? And I'm reading this guy's, item description, and it's like, wow, these things are pretty crazy. So I went ahead and ordered some from him, and lo and behold, when you blew these bubbles under blacklight, they glowed, and they were like the coolest thing I'd ever seen.
That's awesome.
My wife and I were in the kitchen playing with them, and to make a long story short, over time, I thought they were so cool. I was looking for like a side hustle on the side, something to have fun with, and we bought his formulas, patents, and trademarks, and we started selling those glowing blacklight bubbles, or thought we were going to. And so that's how the bubble, that's how I got into the bubble business. Other than blowing bubbles like you and I both did when we were kids, I never really had. I didn't dream at night about becoming this great bubble meister and that sort of thing. It just kind of found its way into my modem one night.
Oh, that's funny. So you weren't like the Willy Wonka of bubbles.
You know what? It didn't start that way. People who come into our warehouse now get a big kick out of what we've created. But yeah, it didn't start. It started in my living room with just finding this guy online one night. It was kind of one of those stories.
That's pretty cool, though, that, you were able to find this on the internet and acquire it, and that you've, made such a great business out of it and everything. That's pretty awesome. So.
Looking back, there was no real game plan. It was just one of those things, and I think it was just one of those things that I was super interested in this. I thought it was, I think I was more fascinated that this guy had come up with this kind of crazy product. I was more impressed with, the invention and his entrepreneurial spirit, and the product was super cool. And I was kind of a young entrepreneur at the time, and I think it all just kind of, the dots began to connect, and here we are 20 plus years later where we make a living making and blowing bubbles. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, I'm sure it is. It's got to be a lot of fun. And before we actually kind of launch into more of the pet talk, so you guys have obviously the glowing bubbles, and then you also have wedding bubbles, and remember the other ones are daytime bubbles.
Yeah, so we have a complete line. So for many years we created bubbles for humans, and we were just making we started with the glowing bubbles, and then started branching out and got into some neon paint spatter bubbles, and then we created some bubbles for the wedding industry that smell like roses, peonies, and orchids. I just made some of those today, and they make the warehouse smell wonderful. It smells like a florist shop. They really smell like authentic. So we just messed around with human and daylight bubbles and then our blacklight bubbles until until the pandemic came around, and then that's when we kind of got into the pet bubble thing.
Awesome. So let me ask, what's the most challenging bubble type that you've ever tried to create?
So years ago there was a bubble that was created. A guy, it was called Zubbles. I don't know if you ever heard of him. It was a guy who he had cracked the code on making like these invisible ink colored bubbles. Like you could blow them in blue, red, green, orange, yellow, and they were very colorful when they were in the liquid state. But when they would pop and evaporate, they would go to nothing. Like they would just evaporate and go invisible, kind of like that, the old-fashioned invisible ink that you spray on people.
Right.
And once I saw that he had cracked that code, I wanted to come up with something similar to it, but it's some pretty deep science, and so that's something, one of these days I'd like to go back to. He's no longer in the business. His patents and everything are have aged out, but I'm always captivated by colorful things, and I would think that would be something cool to go after again.
That'd be kind of cool. Sorry, I'm just thinking, when you're talking about the colorful bubbles, I was just thinking about how they have the races now, the color races where you're throwing the colored powder onto people. Wouldn't that be cool if you could blow the colored bubbles at them and it would, do like the powder and color them?
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm a guy that's drawn to color. I'm like a moth to a flame. Like when I see vivid colors and especially like neon and that's what kind of drew me to that first blacklight bubble, because I always loved blacklight posters as a kid, and Halloween. When you get out the blacklights and things are glowing, it's just kind of really kind of a cool effect.
I'm a neon pink person myself.
Yeah, neon pink is cool. That's a great color.
It is a good color.
Yeah.
So how did you come up with the idea for pet bubbles? Was it inspired by a particular pet or a particular moment in your life? How did you come up with it?
Well, so during pandemic, when the world stopped and everybody was trying to figure out, what they were going to do and how they were going to live and make a living.
And the toilet paper was disappearing, yeah. Uh-huh.
Absolutely, And we were at a party one night, and a dear friend of ours who is a pet lover, a dog lover, we were just BSing around, some wine one night after dinner, and she goes, John, just kind of out of the blue, she said, if you would come up with a bubble for dogs or pets, I think you'd really have something. I think it'd be a good business. And she said it very whimsically and just kind of, maybe the wine was talking, I don't know, but I woke up the next day, and for some reason that conversation stuck in my head. So I get on the internet, it's like, hey, is anybody else making pet bubbles? If so, who's making them? Are they made here? Are they made overseas? Are they any good? And that's when I started my research and found out that, pet bubbles were a thing. I didn't invent them, but I did find that most of the ones that had been created were very poor quality. Most were made overseas, and a lot of them got really bad reviews. So somebody had tried it. They just hadn't done it very well. And so I knew we had a great bubble. And so we went to work on, formulating a very safe, certified bubble that's, pet safe and non-toxic. And then thought, well, we might want to put some scents in there to entice engagement and activity with dogs and cats. So that's when we came up with our peanut butter scented and our bacon scented for dogs. And then our first cat bubble was a catnip infused bubble, and that's one of our number one sellers. Truly, our kitty love bubble is a rock star.
I'll bet it is. I'm just imagining cats going after the bubbles. That's got to be great. If you think a laser pointer is fun, a bubble's got to be even better.
Yeah, we've seen some really fun videos and cute videos with dogs and cats, but cats, they just have this way about it when they're playing with something, and they just have a different way. Like dogs are all in and they're jumping and chomping, but cats just have a different way when they're playing with things. But
because they gotta kind of look to see if you're watching them or not. Got to keep the pretense up to I'm the king kitty here or queen kitty, whichever you may have.
Right. And then those paws go faster than you can see. I'm always amazed at how fast a cat can bat something. Wow,
it's great.
Amazing. Yeah. So again, it was like me finding those bubbles online one night. I had no intention or even an idea or thought of doing a bubble for pet or the pet industry until it came up in a conversation. But I think what I did though was I remembered it and I kind of went after it. So many times we hear things or you think, oh, I'm gonna look that up or see and then, but so many times we don't, and I'm guilty of that as well. But I'm very thankful that morning I woke up and said, hey, I better check into this. Someone's clicking on that one,
Right. And I was actually going to ask you this in a minute, but you just kind of touched on it. I was going to ask you about what makes your pet bubbles, different from regular bubbles. But number one, it sounds like you've kind of perfected maybe the quality of the bubbles for the pets, and then with the different scents and stuff that you add into them, that would definitely set them off, I would think, maybe a little differently than some of the other pet. But I'm going to have to ask this in a minute too, before I get off track here. When you were talking about the safety, I was going to ask you about that as well. How are they specially formulated for safety for pets?
Sure. So we go through, so what we did was obviously all bubbles, whether, like a manufacturer, states it or not, they all have a certain amount of soap in them. They have to. I mean, that's what makes a bubble a bubble. What you need to do is you need to find that safest, gentlest, cosmetic grade, something that's safe, to get on your skin and on your body. And if you happen to get some in your mouth, they're not going to be harmful. So, it's that right, combination, just trying to find, the mix of raw materials that make a good quality bubble, but then also make it not harmful. And then we do send them through the Consumer Product Safety Commission's testing, certification process of making them toy safe and certifying them non-toxic and all of that, so that consumers can be feel very good and safe about using our products, for their kids or their pets.
Oh, good. I mean, and that's important to put out there, so people do understand that your products are going through all of this testing and being certified as being, non-toxic and safe, for skin and stuff like that. And, I'm going to be honest with you, John, I think back in the day, they didn't really care what was in the soap when they stuck it in your mouth if you said a swear word. You'd be blowing bubbles for quite a while.
Yeah. Could you imagine looking at your mom and saying, "Now, Mom, is that bar certified non-toxic?"
Right, exactly. Is it safe to put in my mouth?
Yeah, it might have gotten you another mouthful.
It might have. It very well might have.
Oh my God!
Some of the things that we grew up with that don't happen nowadays.
I can still feel that, and they drag it out of your mouth and they get on the back of your teeth. Oh my goodness. Yeah. You're very, you didn't cuss too much in my house as a kid.
I didn't either. I mean, and I'm not saying that I don't really remember my parents ever doing the soap in the mouth thing, but, my brother was different than me. He got away with doing things I didn't, so I never really cussed in the house, but he would, and I would just look at him. He'd be just going, and I'd just look at him and go, really? I could never think about being, that disrespectful in front of, and we only had 5 years difference between us. I mean, holy goodness. But so I didn't think about cussing around my parents in my household. So
exactly. Yeah. But that safety thing, that's really, I think, what put us on the map, Laurie, because in all of my early searches and investigations 5 years ago, most of these pet bubbles were made overseas.
Right.
They didn't have ingredients. They did not have any ASTM certifications on them. That's that toy safe certification we're talking about. And I think people really are conscious of that these days. I mean, and especially with their pets, even sometimes more so with their pets. They just want to know what's in their food. They want to know what their toys are made of. If they're going to interact with like a bubble, something that they can pop and get on them and in their mouths. I mean, they want to know. So I think that's been an important part of our success is having all that testing and having that safe bubble, for sure.
Right. Talking about scents and taste. So all these different scented bubbles or tasting bubbles, I get, the bacon and the peanut butter and stuff. Okay, so I was going to ask you to walk us through the process of inventing or making, something like the pet bubbles or daylight bubbles or something. But yeah, definitely in that process. I mean, how do you does it have the taste of the bacon or the peanut butter for the pets, or is it just like the smell, the scent of it?
Yeah, that's a great question, because a lot of times, I'll, when I'm talking with people, they'll say the word flavor or what we call the F word. Okay. So our bubbles are truly just scented. Okay. So we are not, I'm not introducing any flavorings. I'm not introducing any sweeteners or anything that's going to really entice the animal to want to eat or ingest my bubbles. It's really just that,
probably a good thing.
Yeah, right. Now there are some other companies out there that advertise an edible bubble. I don't want to go down that road, because I really don't want to advertise that, because I don't want pets ingesting mine. But they are certified. If they happen to get them into their system, they're fine. So we always say scented, and again, don't entice with flavorings or anything like that.
Well, that's good, because I was just thinking about that too. I mean, if they got this, if they really get that flavoring and then they smell that, they would be really just eating these bottles of bubbles all the time if they could get to them. So yeah. Yeah,
that did make, when I saw some competitors doing that, I wanted to stay away from that. That wasn't what I wanted to do. I did not want, a child to be tempted to drink a bottle of soap. It's like it makes my insurance man really nervous.
Yeah, and it's one thing to have your parents wash your mouth out with soap. It's an entirely another one to drink a bottle of bubbles. Recorded.
Yeah.
This call is no longer being recorded.
Whoops, that was me.
I'm like, wow, my phone is freaking out.
Yeah.
That's okay. Yeah, so... Yeah, interesting. I was kind of wondering about that, but then when you had explained like the wedding bubbles earlier with just the scents of the flowers and stuff, then it made a little bit more sense that it would probably just be the scented bubbles, not the taste. But we really probably need to clarify these things, huh?
Yeah, and again, I think so. I think the bubble, the pet bubble industry, at least now, is I think just kind of emerging. I think, people are really taking to the bubbles for wellness and exercise. That's one thing we really didn't kind of see coming. I mean, I'm a bubble guy. We're in the bubble business for enjoyment and fun and for entertainment. What we found is we started getting a lot of feedback and comments from people saying, hey, your bubbles are making my dog move more than he's ever moved, or my older cat now seems to be more playful when I get these bubbles out, and so we had no idea that that it was going to maybe start promoting some health and wellness as well, because dogs and cats are moving a little more as exercise, chasing these things.
Right, exactly. Well, and then on top of that, I mean, it's got to be helping with people health on top of it too, because if you're obviously they're getting outside and playing with their dogs and cats, or maybe not outside with the cats, but they're getting more active themselves, running around blowing these bubbles for their pets to go after and play with. So it's kind of a win-win all the way around then.
It is. It was designed for you to kind of interact and have a moment of joy with your animal. But yeah, the byproduct is, both parties are moving around.
Right. So when you're actually inventing these bubbles or coming up with these bubbles or whatever, are you actually involved in like the I'm assuming there's a chemistry end of all of this, or are you not on that part of it?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I'm actually in the lab, so I am not awesome. I'm not a chemist by education. I'm actually I'm an aircraft engineer as far as my schooling goes. So I do attribute bubbles to aerodynamics and flying. So I feel I'm using my degree and all that money I spent on, or my dad spent on education. But I'm in the lab all the time. Like today, we were trying some new formulations, and we have some new scents that we're going to be launching hopefully in time for Super Zoo this year. Just a couple months away. We have some new things we've got on the table, and it's always fun doing different combinations and seeing might work, and the ones that work and the ones that don't work. It's always always a learning process, and I think that's the funnest part of my job is when I'm when I get to create and kind of put the lime in the coconut.
Right, exactly. That's why I was wondering if you were in that aspect of it or not, because it does seem like it'd be kind of fun to be in there, and figuring that stuff out, and then figuring out what they're going to like. And that kind of comes into the next question. I mean, what's kind of been your biggest challenge in creating a bubble that pets actually enjoy or will play with out there? I mean, obviously the dogs, you're coming up with these different scents, like that peanut butter and bacon and stuff, and
right.
and stuff like that. But I mean, what's kind of the biggest challenge for you in creating a bubble that you think pets might enjoy playing with?
Right. Well, I think the biggest so we have to get that pet owner. So, that's the person that's bringing out their wallet or the credit card to make the purchase. So we have to find something that's going to entice the human buyer to think that, hey, this is going to be, I think this is something that my pet's going to like. So there's a lot of psychology that goes into it. It has to do with even more so than the actual bubble itself. It's bottle design, wand type, colors, how you present them, in your display boxes and things. So I didn't realize how much psychology went into creating products, especially when you need to sell them, to make money. So you can have a great product, but if you put it in like a white label box or a bottle, it doesn't look like much. So you really need to get something that somebody's going to want to pick up and look at, or your advertising needs to be super awesome, and your graphics and your colors need to be captivating. So the product side of thing is obviously you have to have a great product, but two, you also have to have great people that know how to help you bring that product to to the marketplace.
Right, exactly.
And actually that's the most fun too, because sometimes, just like the ideas of getting into the pet world, sometimes you may go down this road that you think is, the way to go, and you'll find that your sales are coming from something totally that you didn't think of, or something that, you discover, and it's like, okay, that's why they're buying here, or this part of the country likes this scent, or this is a better time of the year for this area, and so it's it's this big puzzle, it's this big game, which is always fun.
Yeah. I mean, and it's always good if you have someone out there that kind of can help you, with the marketing aspect of that, and do those little surveys and figure that kind of stuff out as to who that psychology of it and who you need to or what might work better with certain ages or crowds or genres or whatever. So.
Absolutely, and I would love to say that the success of this company and these products is 100% me, and it certainly is not. My lovely wife Beth has been with me this whole journey, and she keeps the back end of our business running, which is very important. Keeps that stress off of me so I can be in the lab and do my creative thing. And I've surrounded myself by some really, really good, talented people who I enjoy working with, and everybody does their part. And it really does take a team to bring any successful business or product to market, for sure. Right,
exactly. And by the way, we should probably give the company. John's company is actually Atomic Bubbles. So I don't think we ever did give the name of that. I thought, well, we better let people know what the name of your company is in case they're interested in checking it out, and which I will put a link for you up on my Facebook page for my podcast. I'll put a link to your page and stuff, so people, if they're on mine, they can go to yours if they want to. So I do that all the time.
Wonderful. AtomicBubbles.com is the website, and you can find us out there too on any of the major e-commerce sites. If you type in Pet Bubbles or Puppy Love Bubbles or Kitty Love Bubbles or Cat Bubbles, Pet Bubbles, Dog Bubbles, we will come up in most search engines, for sure.
Yep. So do you find that certain types of pets react differently to bubbles based on maybe their personality or maybe the breed of, say, dog or cat? Have you heard anything from any of your customers that says anything about that?
That's interesting. As much as we've tried to figure it out, or find out if there's like a best in breed for bubbles or something, or the same with our cats. I don't know if we have got a definitive answer to that. I think pets are like people. I mean, you can have little dogs, big dogs, young dogs, old dogs, and they all kind of react differently to them. I mean, like there's sometimes I'll see a dog and it's like, I think, oh my God, that dog's not gonna, that dog's not gonna be enticing. He turns out to be a rock star. He's getting all four in the air, and like I have two dogs, and one of them could care less about the ball. I mean, no matter how many times I blow the bubbles for the dog, she just looks at me like, what are you doing, man? And, and the other one is loves to play with them, and I'm thinking, the other one better get on the board, because that's how we pay rent around here. So we need to learn how to like these bubbles. But we haven't found that magic equation or that magic thing that says, hey, this dog's going to like them this way, and they're all different. I think that's kind of the fun thing part about it.
Yeah, I was just wondering on that if anybody had given you any feedback, or if you had noticed, because I know I got one sitting here. She's a senior though. She's up there, and so she would just look at me like, "You're out your mind if you think I'm going to go after those bubbles at my age." So,
You're right. Yeah. And we find, I will say sometimes the older dogs and cats are just, they're kind of at that point in their life. So sometimes they will just look at you like, hey, I'm doing my thing here. It's like, I don't know what you're doing there, but I'm still doing my thing here. And but sometimes those older animals will start moving too, and that's what we love to hear.
Yeah, I know mine would just look at me and see what you're thinking about here. Yeah, I know she would, because she's just not that type of a dog. She's never really cared. I mean, chew bones and stuff, but like toys and stuff, she's never really cared for them. So maybe if there was a certain scent or something that might entice them, I don't know, but I don't think with her now. Oh, I'll have to wait till I get some after I lose her and get some puppies, then we'll talk about Bubbles.
Perfect. Well, you let me know. I'll send you some samples to try anytime you like. Okay.
Oh, cool. Well, it'll be a while. I don't think I'm gonna hopefully not be losing her too soon. I just lost one of them a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, well, they don't tend to live as long as we wish they would, but yeah.
I know it's always tough. It's always tough.
It is, and he was a month away from being 14. So
wow. It was a long life, man. 14. That's
yeah, and he's a big dog, so yeah, it was a good long life for a big dog. Yep.
Wow. Well, a lot of great memories.
Oh yeah, yes, and the one I have left, and it's I was just talking about this the other night. I had 7 dogs at one time. I used to do animal control, and when you do animal control, you end up with many dogs. Or cats, whatever the case may be. Sometimes other things that might come in, like snakes and rodents, and not rodents, but hamsters, guinea pigs, those things. So anyway, yeah, I ended up with 7 dogs at one point, and I'm down to the last girl. She is actually, I think, about 16. But
oh my goodness,
yeah, she's a medium-sized kind of dog. Ooh, I think I lost John. Okay, there. Just lost you for a second. Now we're back. So. Anyway, yeah, so 16, she's about a medium-sized dog, but, she was one of the last ones I think that I took in, and, but yeah, doing animal control, you tend to end up with many animals in the home sometimes just because. So.
I can only imagine you probably had so many of those dogs and cats look at you, and it's like, well, I think I better bring you home.
Yeah, It's definitely the very first one we got. My son, I think at that point, was only like 10 or 11 years old, and actually he was at a friend's house, and the lady across the street who I actually worked with, her dog had puppies, and of course my son is, I want a puppy. So anyway, he was our first, and then it just kind of went from there. Between us picking out dogs that came to the shelter and stuff like that, and we ended up with mostly pit bull and pit bull mixes, but
interesting.
Yeah, they're and that's the funny part is you'll know if you I don't know how true it is out for statistics all around the nation, but here it seems like a lot of the animal control officers that I have encountered all have pit bulls. I'm not sure if it's because working with these animals on a daily basis the way we did or do, we recognize the qualities in them that a lot of other people don't see, or because of fear or maybe a bad incident that happened to them, because of and maybe not on the part of the dog, but because it had a bad owner or something, along those lines. But and that's fine. I understand. If you've had a really bad incident or something like that, I can understand why you wouldn't like that breed of a dog. But, don't have prejudged bias against something that you really don't know anything about. And then when I try to explain, because I own them and I see what they're actually capable of and what they're like, don't sit there and try to tell me I'm brainwashed and I'm just trying to brainwash. That's just, no, I have, that's, anyway, I'm not going to go off onto that soapbox. Everybody's got their own opinion, and that's fine. It's fine, whatever people think. So,
yeah,
you can like them or you can hate them. That's up to, whatever. But anyway, and that's a lot of different breeds. Some people don't like Shepherds, some people don't like Dobermans. So, it just depends.
Yep. You know what? You're absolutely right. I mean, it's just like a guy that drives a Chevy or a Ford. You have guys that love Chevys and would never touch a Ford, and the same way. And we're the same with with our pets and the foods we like and all of that stuff. So
exactly.
I think all humans and all pets are capable of love. It's just kind of sometimes the situations they're in and the relationships that you have. So I think you just kind of have to be, as you said, open to all and kind of form your own opinions through experience.
Yep, exactly. Just with anything. I mean, life's an experience. As you go through it, you experience all sorts of different things, and then you make your, make a judgment or opinion or whatever you want to call it on those experiences.
Right.
So that's with everything. But anyway, back to our topic at hand in the bubbles. So, what's the strangest or most unexpected animal? I know you're making bubbles for dogs and cats, but what's the strangest or most unexpected animal that you've maybe seen play with pet bubbles?
So, I'll share a personal story. So we have we have a wonderful zoo in St. Louis. I'm from St. Louis, and the St. Louis Zoo is one of the top 10 zoos in the in the country. It's great zoo, and it's one of the few that's still free. And we love that our zoo is free here in St. Louis.
Oh, nice.
So we do a lot of bubble events down there through another company we have, and we entertain a lot of zoo guests with bubbles. But the large animal zoo person came to me a couple of years ago and said, "Hey, we're looking for something to give some enrichment to our elephants, okay?" And we were thinking about bubbles, and we saw that you made these peanut butter scented bubbles for dogs. How do you think an elephant might react? And I'm all, well, I have no idea, but we need to try it. So I do know that the St. Louis Zoo has used bubbles for enrichment for their elephants from time to time, and I believe that they say that they enjoy them. So I think an elephant is probably the strangest animal that's that I know of that's encountered our bubbles.
That would be something to see.
Yeah. So yeah, they got their own little bubble machine down there with the remote control. So it's I love it. I love that story.
It would be really, really cute to have a baby elephant chasing them around, trying to, pop.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
That would be the cutest thing.
It would be hilarious. It'd be hilarious. Yeah, I need to. You know what? I need to reach out to her. I haven't chatted with her in a while. I need to actually. I'll reach out to her tomorrow and see how the elephants are doing and if they need any more refills down there. I like to, keep my zoo, with bubbles on hand if they need.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe you were going to tell me that they were blowing them for maybe the tigers or the lions or something like that, and then I'm kind of like, okay, well, big cats, okay, that just kind of makes sense, but
You're right. Yeah, and then the other another zookeeper came over, and we were talking about that, and we were talking about the elephants, and I said, that. We have a catnip bubble for more of house cats and things like that, small cats. And she said something about that the large cats don't respond. They've tried it, but there was another scent or there was another herb that they responded to better. The large cats responded better than catnip, I can't remember it right now, but I did. I always find it interesting, different animals and things like that. I would have thought that a large cat would have responded to catnip just like a tabby cat would.
I'm thinking the bacon.
Yeah, something. I'm thinking the bacon now too might be good.
Yeah. Why not? You feed them raw meat.
Exactly.
Maybe you could
like a cured ham scent or something.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe you could come up with a raw steak scent or something. With the tigers and the lions. Now there you go. There would be good bubbles for them. Raw steak scents or something.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's.
We could, yeah.
That's
great.
A
glass of wine, you could have a lot of fun with the different scents you could come up with, couldn't you?
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure. Because
I'd be busy. I'd be busy in the lab.
I think so. I'm going to say right now, there's just some bubbles that probably should never be made. So
Yes, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
and of course, those are the bubbles I'm thinking about right now.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. That's so funny.
Oh yeah, I had a dear friend that I lost a couple years ago that would just be sitting here wringing her hands, thinking of all the evil things she could come up with for scented bubbles. Oh my goodness, yes. We used to come up with some brilliant ideas sometimes. But,
Yes. Oh my goodness.
all right, so what's the most satisfying part of being in the bubble business? I mean, obviously, you've got to have a lot of fun. That's got to be so satisfying, but I want to hear it from you. What's your most satisfying part of being in the bubble business?
You know what? You really hit it on the head there. You know, we've been doing this for some 20 plus years in many facets, whether we're entertaining people or, you know, we're manufacturing and selling products to other people to use. But it's really at the end of the day that, you know, I think the joy and the smiles that we see that it brings to people, because as in any business, even the bubble business, you know, you have your times that can be really hard and really frustrating and really stressful. But I think having a product and a business that actually is out there trying to make people smile and happy and spreading love and joy, I think it's what's kept us going, you know, for, you know, like during those hard times or the hard years, or, you know, when things aren't going so well, and you just think back, it's like, well, you know, what would people do if we weren't doing this, you know, and that get you back up the next morning and, you know, like putting your boots on and getting back in the trenches. So yeah, it's that smile and that joy that we see that it brings to people for sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's got to be fun. I mean, playing with bubbles, inventing bubbles, coming up with the ideas. It's got to be a bunch of fun to do all this kind of stuff. I mean, I would enjoy doing it.
Yes, yeah. Sometimes, you know, I know some of the guys that have worked for me over the years. It's like, I don't know what to tell my family. You know, my kids ask me, it's like, Dad, what do you do for a living? And it's like, I'm almost kind of embarrassed. It's like, well, son, I make bubbles, you know, and it's like, you know, it's like, but I tell them, it's like, you know, it's super important, you know. I mean, if you weren't making the bubbles, man, you know, people wouldn't be smiling and having fun, and people wouldn't be playing with their pets the way they're doing now. So, yeah, it's kind of a strange thing to think about sometimes, but it is. It's a wonderful business, and we love it, and we hope to do it until, you know, for many more years. So.
Yeah, I think if I was a kid and I had a parent that did this kind of stuff, I think that would be cool, because you could just you could play with these bubbles all the time. You have friends over playing with bubbles all the time.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. My kids and friends of theirs have worked in the business over the years, many of them, and neighborhood people and people from church and the community and stuff. They've all worked for us over the years, and it's been really fun. We've met a lot of great people, and hopefully you know, inspired some young kids to go out and do what they you know, what they love or what they're passionate about, you know.
Yep. Good. So, I know we talked in the beginning, you talked about your colored bubbles. So, barring the colored bubble, if you could create a bubble that did anything at all, or it had no limits or barriers, what would you create for a bubble?
Oh my gosh! Oh man! So many bubbles, so little time, Lori. Oh my gosh! You know,
Stump
I
John.
think if somebody asked me one time if they could put their company logo on a bubble, okay? I mean, like, if you could blow a bubble and you could, like, imprint something on it, like, for advertising. I have no idea how you could do it. I have no idea if it's possible, but what a fun thing that would be, to have bubbles that you could display messages on or advertise with, and that's gonna take some notebook work, but I think that would be really fun. And who knows if it could ever be done? But I've had people ask me about it in the past.
You know, I think if it can be done, you'd probably be the person that can probably figure it out.
well, I'm always looking for that next pet rock, honey, so I can retire one of these days. So.
Right, exactly. Man, pet rocks, weren't those the thing?
Oh my gosh, yeah, boy, what an idea that guy had,
Right, exactly. That dude made lots of money off of that one.
Low overhead too.
Right, exactly. It's not like you can't go outside and find a rock.
Yep. It all goes back to that marketing, right? I mean, you can have, in that case, the guy had, a rock in a box, but he had some pretty swift marketing, and the guy made millions.
Yep, that's kind of like the little round fuzzy ball thing with the two little googly eyes on it.
Oh, yeah. There's been many over the time, and that's what I thought when I first found those glow bubbles too. I thought, wow, this is so cool and crazy, and I was so excited about it. I truly thought that I wouldn't be able to make them fast enough, that people would want them that badly, and it didn't turn out that way, and it's so interesting, what goes, what they call viral and what doesn't, so you just keep pushing and, just keep trying every day.
Yep, exactly. So how long have you had the atomic bubbles? How long have you been doing it?
So some 20 plus years, yeah. We weren't always called atomic bubbles, but we've been in that bubble. We've been creating and messing with bubbles for about 20 years. That's when I first found that that first glowing bubble product, and that's when the journey began. So
okay. I was just wondering because there was a time when like neon and stuff like that was in a little bit more than it is nowadays.
Yes, and that kind of seems to come and go, in the 70s, 60s and 70s, man, it was great. In the 80s, it kind of went away, 90s, and then starting back in 2000, it kind of came back in again. It's kind of like bell-bottom jeans, they kind of have their, every 20 years or so it comes back in vogue.
Yep, exactly. Lots of stuff does, it kind of makes it circle.
Yep.
So do you have any fun or surprising stories from customers about their pets playing with your bubbles?
I'm trying to think. I'm always amazed when I love seeing dogs who really are into the bubbles, and seeing that dog that gets up in the air, all four paws are in the air and they're just going nuts over these things. Those have been the coolest, and I've seen some in my day, and sometimes when I least expect it, you'll see a little dog that's just going crazy over them. But I think having a dog or a cat, just the ones that are really into the bubbles, that's what really makes me smile, and it's like, wow, okay, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So you did mention that you are working on a couple new scents, so I was going to ask if you have any exciting new inventions on the horizon. Do you have anything besides the new scents that you're working on that you can talk about, or anything that's kind of coming up for you in the bubble business? I would like you to also mention, because you do have the bubble van, correct? That
yes.
Goes and does different events and stuff. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about that stuff and anything you might have coming up.
Yeah, so, on the event side of the business, so, Bubble Bus is a name another entity that we have, within our within our network of businesses, and that's an event company that goes out and does bubble events for people and humans. This year we have started doing something that's called Party in a Box, where we have it's kind of a do-it-yourself model where people will come and they'll rent the equipment and we give them enough bubble fluids and liquids for 1, 2, 3, 4 hours, whatever their timeline is going to be, and they do it themselves, and that's really been fun this year. We haven't had to worry about running so many crews, which in the past sometimes it's been tough trying to find young people to work for us and get good crews together. So this year we've kind of started to do less in-person events. And started this Party in a Box, which is a do-it-yourself where people rent it and do it themselves, and that's really been a big hit. I mean, we've been renting those things, starting right after the snow melted, right after February, we start renting those, and we'll have up to a dozen going out a weekend, and that's been pretty cool. But that's been a new adventure for us. We're finding people are doing it, for dog birthday parties and things like that. So that's been pretty fun.
Nice. I was just thinking about another. With your colored bubbles, people could do gender reveal parties and stuff with those too, for the blue or pink for the bubbles. That would be kind of cool to have a gender reveal party with the bubbles too. That would be cool.
You know what? You're absolutely right. Yeah, we one of our other Bubble Bus franchisees here in town. They're just across the river from us here in St. Louis, and they've done several over time, and it's really fun. Everybody puts on white T-shirts, and you really can't tell the color until the bubble kind of pops on your T-shirt, and it'll either leave like a light blue residue or a pink residue, and those have been fun parties.
Oh, that'd be cool. People could even do them for their pets if they have a pregnant dog. I mean, they could even. Well, I guess that wouldn't really work because you're going to have both genders in there. So no, I guess that one wouldn't work. Oh.
Well, you could have a purple. Yeah, you could have a purple bubble button.
Yeah, you could. You could do like different colors there that for different ones, like neutral colors or something like that. So because you're going to have both genders. Yeah, people could do it.
Sure.
More pet bubbles.
Yeah, absolutely, man. As long as they're using bubbles, we don't care, Lori.
Yep, exactly. Well, John, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast tonight and talking about your wonderful bubbles and all the great things that you are putting out there for our pets and letting everybody know that you are taking care of that safety end of it as well to make your products as safe for pets and humans as you possibly can, getting everything certified. So that's pretty cool. And I'm glad that we were able to get the word out about you guys a little bit more. So hopefully, some of the listeners out there might get some of your products and stuff like that and have bubbles for their dogs and cats.
Well, we so appreciate being on with you tonight and for your listeners, and appreciate the opportunity you gave us. And I hope if no one has heard of puppy love or kitty love bubbles or pet bubbles in general, we would hopefully they learn something, and we'd love it if they would go out and give us a try. We sure would appreciate it.
Yep, and again, you can check out John's website, get some more information about the company, and take a look at the shop and see all the different bubbles that they have out there for the cats and the dogs. And if you're a human, you can check out the human bubbles for yourselves. I mean, maybe you've got a wedding coming up. You might want to get some of those wedding bubbles. Those sound like they'd be pretty cool for a wedding with the different scents and stuff. So go check out John's page. And like I said, I'll put a link to it on my Facebook page as well. And again, John, I really appreciate you being on tonight. I'm getting tongue-tied. I'm just going to go ahead and announce the next couple podcasts that I have coming up this next month. So you're welcome to stick around and listen to those if you want, but you're also welcome to jump off because I know, it gets kind of late and you might have some things you'd like to get done before bed tonight. So you're perfectly welcome to jump off as well.
Lori, thank you so much. I appreciate it, honey. Okay.
All right. And thanks again for being on, John. I appreciate it.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Have a good night. Bye. All right, everybody. So John is gone for the night. That was pretty cool hearing about all the bubbles and stuff, wasn't it? And the different scents. I thought that's pretty interesting that he was able to come up with the scents for the bubbles to, the peanut butter and the bacon and stuff like that. So he's got some interesting bubbles out there. And if you're into neon, he does have those neon colored bubbles. So go check out the website over there and his shop. See if there's anything you like. And for the next podcast that I have coming up on June 12th, I'm going to have author and philosopher Mark Rowlands on with me. And we are going to be talking about his book, which is called The Word of Dog. It's got a much longer title, but I'm just going to say The Word of Dog for this announcement. And Mark is kind of talking about the philosophical aspects of how humans, think of dogs and view them as to their morals and stuff like that. Do they have morals? Or do they have the compassion? Feelings and things like that people say that dogs have. We do know, I'm pretty sure we can all say that dogs have feelings, but Mark kind of touches on that whole philosophy end of dogs and how we humans, kind of view them and, how he views that dogs, kind of live that good life and how we can learn more about living that good life from them because they just have that joy of being in the moment, whereas humans tend to think about things that, they're actually doing or about how they're living and about themselves and stuff like that. So we don't tend to live in that moment like a dog does. So there's a lot of things that dogs could teach us. But he's kind of addressing those aspects and the philosophy end of it. And again, like I said, whether, we think dogs really do have morals and compassion and think like that, those kinds of things. So that'll be June 12th. And then I am going to have Julie McLaughlin from the Indiana Skunk Rescue on with me on June 26th. And we are going to be talking about, skunks, since she's with the Indiana Skunk Rescue. I thought it'd be really cool to actually have a podcast about skunks and get some facts and stuff out there about them and maybe, abolish some of the myths and stuff that are out there about them as well. I mean, obviously, not a lot of people like skunks because they are a little smelly, but, that's just the way they are, and that's their defense mechanism. So, yeah, nothing wrong with skunks for the most part. You just got to be careful around them. So, anyway, Julie will be on June 26th, and we're going to talk skunks. So hopefully you guys will be able to come back and listen in to the next coming up podcasts and learn a little bit more from Mark about dogs' philosophy and living a better life, learning from them to live in the moment. And then on June 26th with Julie to talk about skunks. So hopefully you guys will come back and enjoy those podcasts as well. Hope you guys liked the one tonight, talking with John about the bubbles. And I hope you guys all have a great weekend. I hope you all had a wonderful Memorial weekend over this last weekend. And I hope you guys all stay safe out there. Don't get into too much trouble. And don't forget to come back in a couple weeks and listen to the next podcast. Bye, everybody.